those are some of the licks that we're going to be working on in today's lesson. And I'm calling this the coolest Earl Scruggs licks lesson. And I really think that this first lick is my favorite backup lick. It's my favorite Earl Scruggs backup lick. It goes like this. Okay, and I just think that's one of the coolest licks. J.D. Crowe plays that in the backup of the second verse of Blue Ridge Cabin Home with the Bluegrass album band. But you'll hear Earl Scruggs play that lick. You'll hear banjo players all over the place play that lick. And it's such a neat lick because it's a closed lick. I played it out of the G position, or it starts really in the F chord shape. But I'm playing a G chord, so I'm playing it across a G chord. But it's one of those movable licks that you can put anywhere on the neck. So I could play it out of the C chord. I just start on the C note here. Or play it as a D lick. And it's just a really neat sounding lick. It's got some syncopation in there. And really what it's doing, and I'd like to explore this, it's a little bit of music theory, but the lick starts on the root of the scale. So if you're playing it out of G, it starts on the G note. I'm playing it with my ring finger on the 5th fret. So playing on the D string there. That's a G note. But then we're going to slide up into the 3rd note of the scale. Okay, so it goes 1, 3, 5, and then that's the root. That's really just an arpeggio. So an arpeggio is the chordal notes of the scale. So the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and then the root. That's an arpeggio. So it's essentially a chord, but you play each one separately. That's an arpeggio. And really that's how this lick starts. 1, 3, 5, and then to the root. And the other thing that's neat about this lick is it's really just moving through different shapes of the chord that you're in. So if you started in an F shape for the G chord, so you're at the 5th fret in an F shape chord position, you start there, but then you move up into a D shape position, which is here, and then you kind of hit the top note is in a bar position right up here. So you're moving through these 3 chordal shapes, which really, this is sort of an intermediate advanced lesson, but really you need to learn all of these 3 shapes, the F shape, the D shape, and the bar shape. And those are movable chord shapes that you can play any chord in. So that's what's so great about this scale is you're moving through these different shapes. So you start 1, sliding into the 3rd, then now you're into that D shape, and with your 7th, with your index finger on the 7th fret, and now you're moving up into that bar shape. And then you drop back down into the D position. So you actually you end in the D shape. And that's kind of neat because then it makes it really easy to move into a C chord. So you can easily move, and that's what I did in that opening lick. As I started, I moved from here straight into that next coolest lick. So let's do that. And the reason that works is because that D shape of the G chord is just 1 fret below the F shape for the C chord. So it's just really easy to move into it. And then it's just the C chord is just 2 frets below the D chord in that F shape. And then what I did in that opening lick was then I just added that same lick, only I played it in D. And to do that, you're starting at the 12th fret. So in that F shape at the 12th fret. So those are the main licks that I wanted to talk about. Was first that G lick that I played, that Scruggsy lick. And so a few more details on that lick. So we go 1, slide into 3, 5, Then this is the root at the 8th fret. We're playing the G note. And then we're sliding up. Only instead of sliding up into the 3rd note of the scale, we're sliding up into the flatted 3rd. That's that flatted 3rd that is part of the blues scale. So the blues scale includes the 1st note of the scale, the 2nd note of the scale, the third flatted note. That's the 3rd flat, then the 3rd, and that is just a. And you'll hear that's that blues scale, and that sounds like a G run that a bluegrass guitarist would play. So as we're doing this lick, we're going through an arpeggio, but we're adding that flatted 3rd. And it's actually pretty easy to play this lick at a faster speed because you're sliding through it. But it will take some work and it will take some practice. But I think this is one of the best Scruggs licks that you can learn. You can play it in all sorts of backup situations. It works best when the vocalist takes a breath. Vocalist might take a breath, and then you can add in that lick, depending on what chord you're in. You might be in the C chord there, you might be in the D chord, or you might be in the G chord. But it's time that if you've got 2 measures, you can fit that lick in, and then the vocalist continues, and it just sounds really cool. I mentioned J.D. Crowe playing it in the 2nd verse of the backup for Blue Ridge Cabin Home, and he actually plays it backing up Tony Rice's singing. So Tony Rice is singing and he plays that lick behind it, and it really doesn't get in the way of Tony Rice's singing there. So that's another neat use of it. But one more time, I'll play it real through, nice and slow. And if you're new to that lick, it's going to take some time. Really work on the timing, play it with the metronome, get it right on the beat. And once you've mastered this, this is a great tool in your arsenal. And I really think that is the coolest Earl Scruggs lick. You could call it a J.D. Crowe lick. J.D. played that all the time too, but Earl really mastered that and introduced it. So then, what about the next coolest Scruggs lick? Well, I think it might be this one. Obviously, there's lots of great Scruggs backup licks, but this next one is also a closed lick, and it was this. I played it in C in the opening bit there. And this is a tricky lick to play because it involves up and down. It involves really single string playing, which beginning banjo players, we mostly play rolls, right? We don't play a lot of single string licks, but single string technique is a great thing to learn, and it's something that really can spice up your playing. But here's Earl Scruggs playing this great lick and introducing it, and again, this is a great lick to fit in those spaces between where the vocalist takes a breath. So okay, and so what are we doing? We're in a F shape. We're playing beginning in the C chord here, but we could play it down in the G, or we can play it at D. Right? So we can start wherever that F shape is, we can play that lick. And you're just playing it in a different chord position, but it works really well. Once you've learned this lick, you've learned it in all those different chord positions. So what is this lick? Why is it so cool? Well, again, it grabs that 3rd note, that 3rd flatted note of the scale, that bluesy note. So we start with just the 1st note of the scale, then the octave note of the scale, but then we get that bluesy note, the 3rd note, the 3rd flatted note of the scale, and that's just a half step, then going up from the 3rd flatted note of the scale to the 3rd note of the scale. And then we're getting the 5th note of the scale and the 6th note of the scale. And then right back down to the 3rd flatted note of the scale and the 3rd note of the scale. And the tablature is down below, so you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing there. With my right hand, what I'm doing is alternating the picking. So it starts with the thumb, then my ring finger, my middle finger, And then we move into that alternating picking, which really just alternates between thumb and index. So then it's thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb. So it's that single string is often just thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index. It's kind of like for a flat picking guitarist or mandolinist, they would play down, up, down, up, down, up. On the banjo, you can't do that, so you have to play thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index when you're doing that single string work. And it's just really neat. Oops, I missed that. And you'll find that this is a tricky one. It's going to take a lot of practice. I still miss hit notes every now and then, especially if you're playing it up to speed. But you're also playing a backup, and if you slightly fudge it, people might not actually pick it up. But it's a great lick, a lot of fun, and it's going to take some work, though, to practice this one up. If you aren't used to playing this or playing single string, I recommend, again, playing it very slow with the metronome. It doesn't need to be really fast. And then there's a sort of feel on this lick, a sort of bounce. There's a little bounce to the rhythm on this lick. It's not quite as flat in its tempo as some of the other licks, or as even. It's got a little bit of bounce. Okay, and that is just another great, cool Earl Scruggs lick. So here it is all together one more time. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that. Those are the two coolest Earl Scruggs licks. There are no licks better than that.